What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. Hope y'all are doing well. Gonna do something a little bit different this week, so let me explain. Matter of fact, let me just start over. My name is Brandon Silvers, and welcome to Above the Fold. Okay, so what's above the fold? Well, if you know me or watch or listen, I hope it comes across how passionate I am about what I do here. I truly love talking about sports, laughing about sports, breaking down societal issues through the lens of sports, all that. The people I've gotten to meet, the friends I've made, the stuff I've learned about myself, what I'm capable of, what I believe in. This has just been incredible. But incredible journeys aren't always easy, and I've had a ton of lows as well, from simple stuff to just trying to figure out how to center graphics on Canva, to trying to figure out how to get my views and my listens up, to just a general feeling of loneliness that you get when it feels like you're the only person who has hit these walls and felt these feelings, and you think there's light at the end of the tunnel, but you don't really know. And it's that lingering under the surface feeling of loneliness that really sparked this flame for this idea that has become Above the Fold. And that flame grew as I did more research on companies in the sports media industry. And it grew as I saw the reactions from sports media professionals about the women's college basketball national championship game. And it grew when I read the demographic breakdown of the sports media industry from Pew Research that was released not too long ago. So this flame is growing and growing until I was finally fully engulfed with this idea of Above the Fold. Because, when I'm frustrated with Canva or with marketing my work or whatever, there are help guides for me to use, but there is no one-size-fits-all way to make it in sports media. Particularly if you don't look a certain way, talk a certain way, come from this background, work for this company, graduate from this school, do this internship, and so on and so forth. Especially if you're an aspiring sports media professional who doesn't fall into the box of being white and or male. With Above the Fold, my goal is to talk to as many sports media industry voices from underrepresented backgrounds as I can about their journey navigating this industry. At its core, journalism is storytelling, and storytelling is how we as humans connect with each other. So I'm hoping by listening to these incredible people tell their stories, you're able to feel some sort of connection to them that will help make your journey feel a little bit less lonely. And I'm also hoping that you can pick up some tips along the way that can make that journey a little bit easier. And this is going to be an educational experience for me just as much as it is for you, and that is scary and exciting as well. And I'm hoping that you're able to get something out of watching my own growth happen as I deal with my insecurities about my own interviewing skills and trying to fight off imposter syndrome or whatever it is that I'm bringing to the table that day. To be clear, I'm still doing Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers, so don't worry about that. Nothing changes there. Above the Fold is simply a series within that universe. Going to be on the same YouTube channel, same podcast listening apps, whatever you use, it's going to show up in those feeds. I don't have a real release schedule yet for Above the Fold. The interviews are just going to air as I get guests. Speaking of that, I have been reaching out to people, but if you want to help, by all means, send me some guest suggestions at beyondthearc843@gmail.com. That's going to be in the show notes as well. It does not matter where that person is in their path in this industry. It doesn't matter how prominent their job is. If they are in this industry and aren't in that sports media white guy mold, send them my way. And if you are a sports media industry professional and you fit that criteria, hit me up. Also, check your DMs and inboxes because I might be trying to get a hold of you, but you don't know me yet. All right, I hope you find this valuable in some way. So without further ado, let's get into episode 1. Welcome to Above the Fold, where I speak with sports media professionals about how they are breaking the mold within the industry and their journey to do so. My name is Brandon Silvers, and my first guest is, I don't know if you can have a better first guest for something like this. You know her from basically everywhere on Twitter, TikTok, your favorite podcast, this show, whatever, from South Carolina, a content creator at the intersection of culture and women's sports.
There we go.
Lauren Dreher, aka Big Low. Lauren, what is going on?
That's me. Not that much. I'm good. Glad to be out of school because I'm a teacher, so
Oh,
I'm good.
bless you. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for joining me. So let's go ahead and get right into it.
Okay.
Before you became Big Low as Lauren,
hmm
you had to be a sports fan. So what are some of your early memories of sports that where you were like, you know what, I like this?
So I have a twin brother. And when we were like around 5 or 6, maybe 5, my I wanted to play soccer, and I was like, "Mom, can we play soccer?" And my mom was like, "No, that's outside, but you can play basketball though." So she
Smart.
signed right. She she signed us up for basketball. Now at first I hated it. Like when the buzzer would go off, I would run off the court screaming and crying every single time I would run off the court crying, screaming because it scared me. And then little by little, I got into playing defense. My coach was like, "Well, you could just play defense," and I loved it. I was all into that. Then, little by little, it grew. My dad also coached football for 21 years in Columbia, South Carolina, at Cardinal Newman. He was one of the first Black coaches in Skeeza. Period. So yeah, that's I've been going to Gamecock games for as long as I can remember. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Got you. That's what's up. So I
Mm-hmm.
know you went to the University of South Carolina as well, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
So what was it like being there as Dawn Staley is like creating this program?
Man, it was so. Of course, in Columbia, I was going to games before. It was Susan Walvius who was a coach, and it just was. I don't know, it was just dead. You
Mm.
know, even my first couple of years at USC was pretty dead. Like I could still go in at halftime, get a seat. It was some games I would like paint up and go, and I would always be on the jumbotron because there just wasn't a lot of people in there. And it's just to see the steady growth. It's crazy. Like I'd be like, I have to like I pinch myself like this is Columbia, South Carolina. Like these top basketball recruits want to come to Columbia? What? Crazy.
Because that was like growing up, you hear about, and you still to this day, but UConn.
Right.
And then to be like, oh, I think we might be the new UConn.
It's
Like,
crazy.
that's
Like
wild.
yeah, it's just like I would have never imagined anything like that. But we knew like the buzz around town when Don first got hired, it was like everybody knew like it was gonna take off at some point. Definitely. Like everybody. It was man. Whew. Then
Definitely.
because I did play AAU basketball, a lot of my AAU people I played AAU against played. So it was almost like, kind of just like a front row seat to see it. Like it's man,
I bet
crazy.
that was incredible because I know I'm old enough to where like the first Summer Olympics I remember were 96 in Atlanta. And so Dawn was on the team. So all those Olympians were like really huge. And then they rolled that right into the WNBA and Dawn's on guest starring on Martin and everything. So when she signed on to be the coach, I was like, I didn't know how we had pulled that off.
Right. Like you come to South Carolina.
I was like, you must have got lost or something. I don't know.
Apparently she has like family roots down here, like family roots down here somewhere.
Thank God for that.
Right.
So
Right.
with the Lady Gamecocks, I'm curious. We see the differences in coverage that different programs receive.
Whew.
So I'm wondering when you see this up close, really as a fan, as a student at South Carolina, as this is happening, how what kind of effect did that have on you as you got into content creation?
I think it's infuriating because it's not like the girlies don't deserve. Even when they're in the early years, like Dawn teaches her team to play tough defense. That is what it is. Certain coaches saying little slick stuff about how to play defense even back then. So to me, and maybe I never really thought about it. Like my subconscious, that's why I'm really big on pushing Black women to the forefront, letting you know, like, we're going to pick better words to describe these Black women. We're going to talk about them fully so we know, like, the different range of emotions are, just a lot of stuff. It just makes me propel Black women to the front. Like, and that's why I say that's my bias, and I can admit that. But I feel like somebody got to do it.
And the fact that you can't admit it. I've been doing this and a little bit of journalism for a little over a year now. And the big thing in journalism is objectivity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's just a huge myth. Like we all have our biases, and the people who can't admit it are the ones holding up this big objectivity banner claiming to be objective, but either they are not aware or they don't care to be aware
Right.
of like your bias one way or the other.
I think people don't bother to even care. They don't do the work. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think. But yeah, I will the first person to say I do have biases towards South Carolina, towards Black women. But I think I still do a very good job of talking about other teams and other people, and period. But I can acknowledge it, and I think that's the first step.
Agreed. And you do a great job of that, because that was one thing that really drew me to your content. It was the beginning of this women's college basketball season, just scrolling TikTok, wasting time. And I got caught up in the women's basketball algorithm, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then like I was first drawn because you did do a lot of Gamecock centric stuff. Mm-hmm. But then the more I watched and the more I'd see people retweet you on Twitter too, and you were popping up there, I was like, she's breaking the game down, analyzing it, and doing it with an expertise and like your bias, but you're still covering it in a way that comes off as fair to me. Maybe I'm biased too. So I'm wondering, like, we talked about you as a fan. When did you decide to make that jump to becoming a content creator?
Well, really, I'm not even gonna lie. It had January. So
okay.
Yeah, I would tweet and I would be like, what if I was literally sitting here like one day, like, what if I just decide to really try to make some content and do something with this? Because I started getting a following just from what I was tweeting. I was like, what if I just, maybe try to make some TikToks, do this and do that. And in January, I decided, and I mean, here we are. Like, it's crazy.
So that's wild, because I was just talking about how good you are at it. So you seem like someone who's been doing it a long time. And I have to know, too, did you go to any type of like journalism school, class, whatever?
No, but I am a teacher.
Okay.
So teaching, standing up in front of 30 kids, having to keep everybody's attention, having to say, you have this, so let me differentiate for you. I got to do this for you while keeping everybody entertained. That's a skill, okay? So yes. Being able to stand there and confidently speak, being able to talk about different things for different people, being able to catch your attention but rein you in over here too, that's teaching. And I don't even really like being a teacher, but I can't sit here and say that being a teacher hasn't helped in this, role. Like it has a lot. That's what it is, teaching. It's crazy.
My girlfriend is a teacher, and I will say I don't know how many teachers I've met who do enjoy being a teacher. That's the stuff y'all have to go through. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So it's wild. So we don't have to talk about that because I know you got to have that job too. But that's me saying it. I'm sorry. So we talked about the how you kind of seems like overnight success, but does it feel like that to you where it's like, I'm on? Okay. No,
because I have been doing basketball-centered things forever. I went to grad school, sports admin degree, tried to get a job, couldn't. So that's why I ended up becoming a teacher, because I just couldn't find anything. I couldn't, and I was just like, I just can't sit here and do nothing. So, was a teacher, coached basketball, but I always kept tweeting. Like I had some friends back in Columbia say, you be on it. Like you're really good at that. And I'm just like, it's just tweeting. And I just kept doing it. Here I am. And then my friend also in Columbia was the first basketball specific training facility in Columbia, South Carolina, called Iconic Sport Performance. She hosted tournaments and things like that. So one day I was like, hey, like, let me run the social media for your tournament. I post on Instagram, Twitter, no TikTok by then. I was like, let me do it. Da-da-da. She's like, you're good at it? Fine. One less thing I got to worry about. So, I mean, I'm at the tournaments. I'm sometimes on the mic, emceeing. I'm recording, walking around talking to people about the different sneakers they have on. I'm doing like before the game, walking down the middle of the court while they warming up, like, this is this team. We got some girls going to college here, listen to them. Same thing, halftime, I'm coming back. Afterwards, doing interviews, recording like how, the good stuff and posting it on her Instagram story, tweeting and all at the same time. And I just did it. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, I got to rush. And then she had Renee Montgomery come down and I interviewed her for her, and I still got that interview. So yeah, I just did it. And
so you talked about like how cool that is, and all the work you were doing, even though it's not your day job. Mm-hmm. What is at the root of like that passion that makes you want to get up and hustle so hard?
I love basketball. Like, I love it. Like, I cannot imagine my life without basketball at this point. I can't believe I hated it at one point. Because this is not new to me. Like, I've been watching basketball all day long since like middle school. I mean, the draft would be on and I can't watch. It'll be on during the school day. My mom is texting me like first pick. First pick. Like, my mom's texting me the whole draft. Like, I just was locked in, and I knew, like, my high school, I didn't necessarily have the opportunity. I didn't go out and train a lot. So I am decently tall, super athletic. It just wasn't in the cards for me to go play nowhere, but that didn't stop me. I just kept and then just now seeing how certain teams are covered, certain people are covered, and certain biases, it's just really important to me to try to get people's stories out, people show their personalities off the court, just stuff like that. It's just
definitely. So kind of speaking of that has been, for someone like me, like, I'm a guy, so I kind of take for granted, I want to watch basketball. I'm going to be able to find coverage. I'm going to be able to find a game, all that. When did it kind of hit you where you were like, man, I got to really work to find women's college basketball or WNBA coverage?
I think the women's college wasn't as bad, but the WNBA was a little tougher. Like, it was, especially if you don't have like a specialized channel, or you don't have money to pay for this or money to pay for that. So now that I'm older, I'm good. You know what I mean? But when I was younger, I'm like, I don't know. Like, it was a little harder to watch. So, but that deal that they just signed today is really dope. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, going to be on Ion with Law and Order and
Criminal Minds.
Yes. Those are my shows. So I'm excited about that too. And so with that, like, the lack of coverage, and you mentioned that women's college was easier to find than WNBA. There seems to still be like a disconnect there. I mean, we saw the record-setting numbers with the women's national championship, but we haven't really seen that translate over to the W yet. Mm-hmm. What do you think needs to be done? Do you have any grand plans yourself, or?
I just think as a whole, the WNBA is still kind of young. It's still in the 27th year. So I feel like it's still got some growing pains, some things to work out. Also, I feel like college teams, it's a little different. You got a built-in fan base. It's just a different, amateur sports in general are just a different. So I just feel like it's just some growing pains at W. The last two the moves they made with the Ion today and the charter flight, sometimes I feel like we're really going in the right direction. So I think it's just growing pains, and just kind of figure out, like, will this work? Because I mean, if we look at the NBA in its 27th year, it probably wasn't popping like that either,
No.
So I think just growing pains. I think one of the biggest things for me is just being intentional about bridging that gap between college and the pros. I think that is a big thing. And I think storytelling, in my opinion, just me, because it doesn't necessarily cost as much money. If you're more intentional about telling the stories of everybody, of different women in the league, different women that other people can look up to besides Stewie, Sue, then that'll draw people in stories. Because a lot of people like Asia Wilson. I like Asia Wilson because I'm 803 down. But a lot of people probably don't even like Asia because she played basketball. She's got a dope personality. She got a dope story. So I feel like if we can maybe tell more stories, I think that would help. More eyes, more money, and then that can push us far. And that's something that I feel like you can do that doesn't cost a lot of money. So just being more intentional about storytelling, I think, and bridging that gap, those would be my two main things that would help.
Got you. And as you've gotten more into this space, has there been anything that's really surprised you, either good or bad?
I would say a lot of people don't appreciate people. Sometimes, like some people appreciate people not being biased, but sometimes they don't. So they're like, "You're supposed to be South Carolina fan. You're talking about that," or "You doing too much. You can't talk about every team." That's one thing I'm just like, that's not supposed to do. I like basketball. That would be probably that, and just trying to find ways to, how can I say this? You have ideas, but being able to make it always come to life, especially if you don't always have the most resources, but still trying to make it come to life. That's probably one of the things. But I'm figuring it out regardless. I'm always figure it out. But it's just the process of like, okay, how can I make this shake or make this, that would be it.
Definitely. And had there been any moments yet where you're like, you have to stop and be like, whoa, I'm doing this right now?
Yes. So last, I hosted WNBA spaces for the official W page. I was on there. The first time I was a nervous wreck. It was when we were talking about free agency. I probably was stuttering on my words and everything. I was just nervous. But this most recent one, to see me on a flyer with Monica McNutt, Ari, like Ari's my girl. Like she has really taken me under her wing. But just to be on a flyer, I'm just like, that's me. That's crazy. Like, and I'm talking, to Monica, and we having, discourse. And I picked somebody in the first round that neither Monica or Ari did, and she ended up getting drafted in the first round, or saying something, and Monica is like, "You're right. Like, maybe I need to change my." I'm just like, what? One of my best friends, she said she was driving back from Florence with her family, and so she put the spaces on in the car. And she said her dad was listening, and he was like, "Oh, that's Monica." Da da. She said, "Yeah, you said something." My dad was like, "That's Lauren," and I was, that's. So I think that, and I know for me, like, I just always wanted something. My parents are proud of me regardless, but I just always wanted something to make my parents feel like super proud of me, and I feel like they were really proud of me. So that's probably the moment I was just like girl, like you did that. That's probably it.
That's great. So let's go back to, you talked about the nerves. That's something that I feel like before every interview still. And like, oh man, I'm talking a million miles an hour. I'm doing it during this interview. What are some of your strategies to kind of work through that?
Ooh, that first time it wasn't nothing I could do. That was just nervous.
Just got to take the L, and we just gonna get better next time. Sometimes that's how it is.
Right. The second time, I think it was more like I used to get nervous before every basketball game. So if I'm not nervous, I need a little nervous energy so I can be like pumped up. So I just tell myself, "You good, you got it." I remind myself, like, you here for a reason. You that girl. And I mean, that's how I go. Like, I just think of it like a basketball game, like I used to play. And when the ball tip, ain't no time for that. So when we get started, ain't no time for it. So let it go and get to it. That's kind of how I have to look at it, because I get nervous.
That's good. That's comforting to me. So I'm hoping that people watching and listening are like, okay, if Lauren gets nervous, then it's okay to get nervous. We just go work through it together.
Yeah, just work through it. Nervous.
That's what's up.
When I'm coaching, I get nervous sometimes. Like, oh, how these girls gonna do today? So yeah.
Well, they say like nervousness and excitement are the same thing. It's just about how you frame it, but that's easier said than done.
Very much so. Very much easier said than done. But
so talk a little bit about what you're doing now, where people can find you, and what else you got going on.
So I'm always on Twitter, TikTok, same at Big Low. We got some projects coming out. maybe on like the dynasties of women's basketball, because I think everybody can need a little history lesson. And I'm a teacher, so classes in session. I got to let the girlies know some history. Just different projects. Like I said, I want to be intentional about the culture, pushing Black women forward and bridging that gap between college and the pros. So a lot of my content coming up is definitely going to be focused around that. I also got some really good news with the WNBA, so we're looking out for that.
That's a great tease.
Yes. So yeah, and when the summer comes, because of course I'm a teacher, we gonna ramp it up. I'm gonna be going to some games. I'm going to All-Star. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully it pays off.
That's what's up. And before I let you go, please, I'm gonna clear out. We're gonna ISO. Tell me about why it is so important for you as a Black woman to be repping Black women out here every day.
Woo! Because Black women, the world sometimes we just get the short end of the stick, Black and a woman, it's just a lot. But of course I'm biased, but we are beautiful, smart, talented, all of the above, and we deserve to have our stories told, and we deserve to have our stories told in a way that directly reflects us, that has a positive connotation always, by people who understand who we are, and that's me. So that is what I am all about. Like, let's tell these stories, girlies. Let's let the girls know, the little girls that's coming up, that's playing basketball, I don't know, at Dreher High School. Well, what can I put on my edges to make my hair lay down? Let's talk about that too. Tell them that too while we're talking about your journey, matriculating through this women's basketball world. Like, let's do all of it. I'm just here to tell your story, push you forward, and show you in the most positive light that you can. Always. That is my why.
Boom. I'm sending that to WNBA marketing tonight.
Period.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for being on. I'm going to let you go. I know you got a million things to do, but I appreciate this. And check Bigelow out. She is already in the process of blowing up. So get in quick, especially make sure you get the right account. I know the checks just went away. I don't know. But yes, so this has been Above the Fold with Brandon Silvers. Please like, rate, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I will catch y'all when I get me another guest.
Period.